So this tutorial is focused on the impact a pencil on the B scale can have on a drawing done exclusively first in the H scale. And for those of you who don't know what either are, basically the hardness scale represents how hard and how bold a pencil is. So the higher the number on the H scale, the lighter and the more hard the pencil will be. And then the higher the number on the B scale, the more bold, the more black the end result will be. And most of the time, we're using pencils that are somewhere in the middle, especially with mechanical pencils, which usually are preset at an HB lead. And with a lot of my drawings recently, I've been experimenting a lot more with traditional pencils and not using mechanical as much. And that's because it's sometimes harder to find darker and lighter lead for mechanical pencils, so instead, I'm choosing these traditional pencils to really get lighter values and darker values. And I'm noticing quite a difference in my work. There are definitely times that I will still go back to a mechanical pencil, but when I'm starting a drawing, I notice myself more and more working with a 2H. And this is a lighter pencil, which allows me to kind of build a blueprint for the whole drawing before I punch some of those darker values. And the other thing that I really like starting with an H pencil is that it becomes less ingrained with the paper, because sometimes if you're working with a HB or a 2B or anything even darker than that, oftentimes when you're working, you can't lift that graphite out of the paper once you lay it down. So I used to like starting with a darker pencil like a 2B, but once that pencil stroke is down. It's not coming back up. So you better be very confident in where you're placing it. I find myself liking working with a pencil on the H scale first because I can explore new areas or I can create new shapes while still being able to erase it if I want to take it out. Or if there's an area that I definitely know I don't want shaded that dark, I can lift it and I know it'll lift very easily with a kneaded eraser or my mono eraser. I've also been listening to a lot of other traditional graphite artists that talk about instant gratification with contrast and vocal points. And it's become very clear to me that as a traditional artist, we oftentimes spend our time going towards the areas that we know are going to be the most fun. So for me, the example would be eyes. I always find myself rendering out the eyes pretty early. Now the challenge with starting with a 2H pencil and then saving these darker values for later is you kind of have to do some of the boring, monotonous work first, and then you save all the fun parts for the very end. And those are the areas that make the image really pop. And that's when you go in and you add that contrast and you focus on those vocal points, which hopefully that's also where the contrast is, because naturally humans are attracted to contrast. But you don't want to overdo it. If you add kind of a darker value everywhere, it kind of negates the whole point of having areas with darker and lighter values. You want to build up the contrast on a foundation that you have already built and established for yourself. And the goal would be to have an image that goes from having a sameness look throughout to be very striking in certain areas. And even though I'm pushing this drawing further with a 2B pencil, you could push it easily much further with a higher number B. But I don't want to have so much contrast that it becomes distracting. So I like to be very conscious of where I'm adding my contrast, and I'm sure you guys do the same with yours. So I would say go out and try this for yourself. Even if you're a digital artist, try working neutral for as long as possible and then punch the contrast near the end. And when I pull up the comparison to see the drawing before and after I add the 2B, at first it may seem like a very subtle addition, but when you really look at it, one is definitely more striking than the other and stands out. So while this may just be a little extra technique that you can use on your pieces, I think it's one that will really make them stand out. As always, thanks for watching.